Cool. So how is everybody tonight? Should we
Fine.
get going on this? This is going to be a review of rules and kind of talking to you about what PPA expects, but also, as I said a few minutes ago, a few of you hadn't joined yet. If you have questions, please feel free to unmute yourselves if you've muted, and please, if you have background noise, mute yourself. Otherwise, if you have a quiet surroundings, don't worry about it. But yeah, please think of this as informal, and even though I'm doing kind of a PowerPoint thing just to kind of stay on track, don't worry about interrupting. I'm perfectly open to questions at any point. So, okay. So why compete? That's the first question. So a lot of you have been competing for a long time. I know we have a master of electronic imaging in the crowd here, Barry. First
Yeah,
person in the
I'll get
entire,
them.
yeah, first person in New England to get that degree. I think you're the only person in New England to have that degree.
It could be, and I'll be the last one now that they've eliminated it.
Right, I know. I was the first one to get the master artist, but you were before me with the master of electronic imaging.
Only a year or so.
Okay, so why compete? Well, let me tell you a little bit about my background. I started as a newspaper photographer in about 1979. My older son was a little kid at that point, and I went along. I had a studio. I had all sorts of things going, and I just kind of did what most people do, relied on what I knew and didn't really grow a lot. So finally in 2005, Jeff Stambridge, an NHPPA former member, I think he's retired now, was a former student of mine and said, you should join NHPPA. And I did. And it was one of the best decisions artistically I ever made, because my flatline growth as a photographer immediately went way up. So I've only been competing on IPC districts since 2007, and I have a whole bunch of degrees, and I really feel like it's changed everything about what I do. I think it's the best education you can get for photography, competing, because people who kind of know what they're doing, they've been around a while, they know composition, they know lighting, they know a lot about this industry. They're looking at your images and giving you an evaluation of those images, and it's really a huge benefit as far as growing. And the other advantage of this, it's a marketing tool. If you even get a white ribbon, you're an award-winning photographer. So you can put that in the newspaper where you live and say, I am now an award-winning photographer. I have competed and won this prize in my competition and state competition or in national competition. So it's really, really a good way to grow and to market and to really expand your horizons as an artist. So let's talk about the levels of competition. The first level for most of us is NHPPA. We're talking about, since this is an NHPPA talk, I'll kind of frame it on that. But I belong to both NHPPA and Massachusetts PPAM. You can win state awards. I have a lovely collection of crystal from my states, and that includes the CPP Award, which is a Certified Professional Photographer's Award, the Photographer of the Year Award. In Massachusetts, they call it the Photographic Excellence Award, the ASP Award, the American Society of Photographers Award, and there's so many more. There's a bunch of them. So it's really nice to win those awards, and you feel great doing it. In state competition, we judge by number. So the lowest anybody I've ever seen get is a 68, 69. And at that, anything under 70 does not hang. It's not considered worthy of professional level, really. And it's not an embarrassment. It just usually means somebody's very new and doesn't know how to present their images, and they're not used to doing it. So, but 70 to 74 is average professional. 75 to 79 is above average professional. And then we get into the merit range, which is 80 and above. And 80 to 84 is deserving of a merit. Then 85 to 89 is excellent. 90 to 94 is superior. 95 to 100 is exceptional. And it's exceptional to get those scores. It's hard to get those scores. Oh, let me let somebody in here. So they were judging with numbers at IPC until last year. About 2 or 3 years before that, they weren't judging. They were just doing merit and non-merit loan, non-loan. Now they've gone back to that for both IPC and districts. So once you get past state, you won't see a number on your entry. You'll either see merit or non-merit, and you won't see anything else. Okay, I just muted somebody, so, okay. I'm muting everybody pretty much because of the background noise that just came in. So if you want to talk, you'll have to unmute yourselves. So thank you. Okay, so that's state. Like I said, once you get to districts, which is the next level, then there are no numbers anymore. So what happens at districts? Districts, there are 5 districts. They include.
Ella?
Yeah?
Can I just add one thing that I learned?
Sure.
You don't have to only submit in your own state. Right. So even if you're a member of NHPPA, you can submit to other state competitions if they welcome out-of-state people, which many of them do. And I learned that this month. So just if anyone's interested in it and don't want to wait for our state one, you can do it sooner.
Yeah, that is an excellent point. Thank you for pointing that out, Sandra. That is very true. You can enter other states, which I do of it because I'm a member of both Mass and New Hampshire. You can only have one primary state. And my primary state right now is Massachusetts. So when I enter New Hampshire, I'm entering as an out-of-state member or an out-of-state participant. And that means the only trophy I can win in New Hampshire is the out-of-state Court of Honor. That's the, and I believe the Creative Challenge one is also eligible. I have never won a Creative Challenge in my life, so something to shoot for, right? So yes, you can enter all the states you want to enter as long as they accept out-of-state entries, but most of them do not allow you to win anything more than just maybe one trophy, which is fine because what you're entering for is the education in that case. You're trying to get as many points of view as possible from as many judges as possible to get input on your entries.
Ella?
Yep.
As you said, a number of years ago, PPA tried to change from numerical scoring to, I guess it was in or out or thumbs up or thumbs down.
Right.
And it created quite the controversy with the membership. The vast majority of the membership said, no, that doesn't tell me anything. That doesn't give me any relationship to where I am. Yep. And they went back. Now they've decided to try it again. Has there been controversy? Is the membership satisfied with this? Because I personally don't.
This is the first time they've done it in a few years. So this is the first time they've dropped the scores and gone to merit, non-merit, loan, non-loan. And I think right now, frankly, people are so kind of overwhelmed with COVID and just coping with what's going on in the world. They're not getting too worried about that at this point. The other thing I've heard, but I haven't seen it reflected in the materials on the PPA website yet, is that they're changing the name from IPC, International Photographic Competition, to IPE, International Photographic Evaluation. But as I said, I can't confirm that. Even as an approved judge, I haven't gotten that information officially yet. So it may be changed to IPE, but that's basically what they're doing. I agree with you, Barry, in a way, that I like the number system because it really kind of gives me much more information as far as where I land. But on the other hand, people were getting really, really obsessed with the numbers to the point where they were entering like 30 states and trying to get their numbers up high before they entered districts or IPC. So I think part of what PPA is trying to do is take the take the emphasis off of the score and just try to get a general best quality image. And then they pick the Grand Imaging Awards and the World Cup from there. So, yeah, but I mean, they go back and forth. And as I said at the beginning, the rules change every year. There's something that changes. So there's international competition is the next level. So districts, let me just make sure I went through that. Oh, yeah. There are trophies awarded for each of the districts. The districts take care of all of the United States and part of Canada. I'm not sure if it's all of Canada, and then part of Asia as well. So some of the districts in the United States include Southeast Asia, and our district in the Northeast includes Nova Scotia and the eastern part of Canada. So
Ella, do we still have a district this year?
No,
Oh,
districts
no, we don't.
have been canceled this year. They were
Okay.
They were supposed to happen in June, and that was, not a good time for anything to happen.
Just curious because you mentioned it.
Yeah. They just canceled them, and then they postponed IPC to October. So we've got a good long time still to get our entries ready. The early deadline is September 28th, and the late deadline is a couple of weeks later for IPC. So you've got time still to get things done, a couple months. So you have the three trophies. Say what?
This is John.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
The other thing is New Hampshire's competition. Our deadline is August 31st, and we're holding the competition on September 12th, which is a good precursor to help you, because we're going to use a numeric scoring system as shown right here on the screen, and it'll help you really get a good feel. And considering we also have 4 approved jurors and 2 judges in training on our panel, so we have a really strong panel that would help prepare and give you some good confidence going into IPC.
Absolutely. Do you want to talk a little bit about the rules difference between New Hampshire and?
Just one question. Can I have?
Go ahead.
I have one question, Daniel, here. All this material that you're giving and the dates, is it possible to send it to us, to download it from the website?
Yeah, it's all on the PPA website. If you go to the PPA website, ppa.com, and go to the competition link under events, it's all there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All there. No problem.
I'm sure it's on New Hampshire's site too for New Hampshire stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is. It's there. Really, the differences between IPC and New Hampshire State is really we are a numeric scoring system, as shown here, and we have the different we have 2 different levels of the competition. We have a master's level and we have a non-master's level, where we award courts of honor in all the different disciplines, such as such as artist, portrait, illustrative, and so forth. So, and we do allow out-of-state competitions as well. Last year I think we had was like 15 or 20 different out-of-state competitors in the competition, and we're marketing the competition as well to those other states, considering we do have that high caliber of judge, at the New Hampshire competition. So it really is a good sounding board or a good place to really have your images seen by really qualified judges. So it's definitely a good measure of how you may do at the IPC level.
Yeah, and that's really important. That's one of the reasons New Hampshire's been so successful in predicting how you'll do at IPC. I've competed at a few different states as an in-state and out-of-state, and I think New Hampshire's had the best track record all along of predicting what your image is going to do at national versus state, because a lot of times you may find, I had an image score 100 in Massachusetts, which Massachusetts is great, but that image never merited at IPC or districts. It scored 100 in Massachusetts and never merited. So that's, and I've had that happen a couple times, not 100, but really, really high and not merit. So, you know, it's really good when you have that many affiliate jurors or approved jurors on a panel. That's the same thing. Because they're from the same pool that will be judging districts and IPC. So, cool. Okay. So in each category, and there are categories of districts as well as IPC, and I'll go through those when I get to IPC a little after that. There are the master artist, illustrative, portrait, et cetera, et cetera. In each of those categories for each district, there are 3 trophies given out. So you can win a trophy at district level as well. In addition to that, ASP gives out their trophy to the highest scoring image or the best merit, the best judged image in each district as well. So there are an ASP as well at state level. They do it at both. They do not give out a trophy at, you know, for the highest scoring image or the highest judged image in IPC. They've already done that basically. So, okay. So at district level, all they're judging for is merit, non-merit. Does it reach the merit category? If it's in state, that would be 80 or above. So if it doesn't reach that, then it doesn't get a merit. If it does reach that, it does get a merit, and it's considered sealed. And the reason they call it sealed is they actually used to have only physical prints, and they would put a seal on the back, a little sticker on the back that said this image has merited at districts, or it used to be called regional competitions back then. I had to reach back in my memory for that one. But so sealed means that if you then submit the exact same image to IPC, it's guaranteed to still be a merit and will be judged for loan. You will not have to have it re-judged again. So it's guaranteed that you'll get your 1 point for your merit there, and you may get 2 from being loan. So when we get to IPC, do you have questions on that? I heard somebody intake breath. Okay. So when we get to IPC, International Photographic Competition, both that and districts takes place in Atlanta. They judge all the districts at once. They judge them by category. So they'll start with all of the portraits, then all of the illustrative, then all of the creative open, all of the artists, all of the PO albums, all of the wedding albums, and that's how they do it. So they judge all those, and then they sort them afterwards for the different districts and the prizes there. Anything, you don't have to enter the first 2 levels. It's a really good idea to do that because you're getting feedback, especially at the state level. You're getting feedback from the state judges, and most of the time you can actually talk to those judges in person. This is an exceptional year, of course, but normally the judging is done at your conference, and you can go up to the judges and ask them, why did my image get this score? What can I do to improve it? So that's a really great benefit. And even now with the remote judging, you can ask the judges, you can get feedback from the judges via image critiques, which are available online for a minimal price, and everybody that's a PPA member got a $30 education credit. So you can use those on the critiques as well. I've been doing critiques for the last week and a half for people, so, and all the judges are picking them up and doing them as well. And those are anonymous. All we see is a number, so we don't know who you are, so you're not disqualifying us from judging your image later on, which is really good. So,
Ella,
yes.
I have a question. If you watch judging, like because sometimes they allow you to watch.
They always
when you're watching, do you get critique, or do you just see your image get a number or a merit, non-merit, and that's it?
Okay, it depends. It's rare for one of my images to go through without getting challenged, and that's when you hear the judges talk. So what that means is when the judges look at something, they give it a score, and usually they give it a score within 5 to 10 seconds. It's really fast. because we're very trained on looking at things and making a judgment pretty fast. And then the score will come out. They'll do a calculation and give you an average score. If anybody is off of that category, remember the categories back there, the merit, excellent, superior, exceptional categories, or the above average categories. Say I judge something merit and someone else judges it superior. They should challenge the score then. If the score comes out in the merit category and doesn't come out in the category that they think it should be in, they should challenge it. Then you're going to hear every single judge talk in turn about that image. And they're going to say what they see, why they're going to hear what they scored it, and they're going to say why they scored it that. And that is hugely helpful. It's hugely helpful even to watch image competition, because you'll see them doing it for all, whatever images get challenged, and you'll learn what they're looking for. You'll become much more observant about your own images as well. And you'll kind of learn the aesthetic that they're judging by as well. And we're going to talk about the 12 elements as well as just this stuff. So yeah, you don't get a critique per se, but if your image gets challenged, you definitely will hear a critique in amongst all the comments. You'll hear very, very clearly, you'll hear critiquing going on. And then you can also sign up for a critique. There's like a bundle of critiques. I think it's $35. It was last year, I believe, to have them do your whole case and give you a critique afterwards. They changed it this year so that you used to have to sign up in advance. Now you can sign up within a few days of the competition and ask for critiques if you want them. And believe it, I still get critiques. I still ask for the critiques because I want to know what they're thinking. So a lot of times if something doesn't get challenged, you have no idea why it scored what it scored. And I have had that experience, and it can be a little frustrating. So it's nice to get those critiques and learn what the judges kind of were thinking, or at least it should get a handle on it. So
if there's no challenge,
yep.
Will you hear how each individual judge scored it, or just the total?
Nope, just the average. Yep.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah,
the judges themselves can make a challenge too. If one judge says, "You guys are all crazy. This is such and such,"
yeah,
he can fight for it too, right?
Yeah, it's always the judges. It's always at least one judge that makes a challenge, and each judge can challenge the image. So technically, the image could get challenged 6 times. It can get challenged by each jury member and the jury chair, but that's really rare. I've seen things challenged 3 times fairly often, but not more than that. Usually it's once or twice. So
if they don't have numerical scores, do they still challenge superior versus excellent versus?
No, they're not challenging that. What they're challenging is merit, non-merit in that case, or loan, non-loan. So they'd be challenging those categories, and then they would be talking about why they think it should be in the next category, why they think it should be a loan versus a merit. So, okay, somebody's clicking something there. So, turn off your muting if you are clicking here. Okay. So if you didn't enter districts, then I'm going to mute a couple more people. If you didn't enter districts, then the first round of IPC is merit, non-merit, just like districts. And then everything that's merited from districts and IPC goes in front of a loan panel. It's a different panel. So the first time you've got 6 judges. The next time you've got 6 different judges. It may be that there's an overlap, but it's not the same panel. So it's going to get judged again for loan, non-loan. So, and if it's already sealed, then it just goes automatically right to a loan panel when the loan panels start. Okay, so here it is, just kind of in a diagram. This is your state competition right there. It doesn't feed into districts or IPC. If you get a really high score in your state, it doesn't mean anything as far as districts goes. Think of it as a predictor, not as a promise. all right? And we think of it like the weather. The weatherman says it's going to be sunny tomorrow. He could be wrong. So it's the same with juries, because we're human and this is all subjective. So we have standards to do it by, but that's the way it kind of works. So you have the scoring in state, because we want to know. We have different trophies in state. Then you go to districts. They're either merit, non-merit. Right there, there's different districts: Southeast, Northeast, Southwestern, Central, and Northwestern are the districts. And then IPC, you enter either from districts. If you merit it in districts, then you don't even have to do anything with your entry. You can just leave it, let it sit there, and it'll automatically funnel into IPC once you enter IPC. If it didn't merit, then you have to do something with it, replace it or do something else. If you want to change it, if you want to break the seal, which is a dicey proposition for a lot of people, it means you are not guaranteed your merit anymore, but you may have heard something from the judges that makes you think you can improve it, so that it wouldn't just be a merit going through IPC, it might be a loan and get you 2 merits instead of 1. So last year I broke 6 seals because they were doing scores, and I had a bunch that scored 84, and they weren't judging anything. They weren't judging anything for loan that didn't get at least an 85. So I broke 5-6 seals last year, and just as many the year before, and it worked out for me, but it doesn't always. The statistics are, if you break a seal, 33% do better, 33% do worse, 33 or 34% stay the same. So it's a roll of the dice. And so IPC, merit, non-merit, loan, non-loan is the next step. And then from the loan images, the GIA entries, the GIA nominations are taken. And those are the top 10 images in each category. And we'll go into those categories in a little bit. So, but the Grand Imaging Awards and also the World Cup entries. And those are 2 different, like, high level of awards for people that have kind of reached the top. So
how do they maintain the integrity of the seal from district to IPC? When you had a print, they actually sealed it up, stamped it on the back and signed it.
Right.
But we're submitting digitally now. So how?
Yeah, you can't take your digital image out and re-enter it. If you take it out and re-enter it, you've broken the seal. If you let it sit there in your case, it'll automatically funnel straight to IPC, and it will keep the seal.
Okay, I haven't entered in a while, so I'm lost on some of the terminology. If you enter a district,
yep.
What happens to the image? Does it go into storage someplace with them? They hold on to it?
Yep.
Or what?
If you enter a physical print, they hold on to it. If you enter a digital entry, it just stays in the server, and stays in the files that they have. And if you break the seal by doing anything different to it, if you try and take it out of your case, you've broken the seal, and you're not guaranteed your merit anymore.
So it's sort of like a digital wallet. The image stays in a digital storage of some sort with PPA.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. They've made it much easier to break the seal. It used to be kind of hard. You used to have to call Rich Newell and say, I want to break the seal on this image. But then when they started making the procedure that you had to get 85 or above to get judged for loan, a lot of people were breaking seals. So they made it much easier. So that part's a little bit easier if you want to break the seal, but I doubt very many people are going to do that now, because anything that merits will be judged for loan, and we don't really have a clear idea how high it scored. So
there's no physical print entry at all.
Not this year. No, only because of COVID. Yeah, because the judging is going to be remote, so it all has to be digital. So
I thought it's been that way for a while.
No. They've had last year they had quite a few prints. So under normal circumstances, they really like having prints. Yeah, because they want the sponsors to be happy. There's the labs and stuff want us printing stuff. And PPA wants the labs to be happy because they sponsor a lot of PPA stuff. So, yeah. So, yeah, in a normal year when we're not suffering from a pandemic, you can enter prints or you can enter digitally, but not this year. Yep.
I've been out of the loop.
Yeah. How are the images judged? Okay, we talked a little bit about this. There's a panel of 5 judges plus a jury chair usually. At state level, sometimes you'll see smaller juries. If you have, right now with everybody doing remote, most everybody is doing a 5-judge panel, but the states have to pay the judges, and the less rich states, the less plush states oftentimes have a little trouble paying that many jurors, because not only do they have to pay them a certain amount to come in, which isn't a lot, but they have to pay their hotel, their meals, and travel sometimes. So that gets expensive for a state. And as John said, New Hampshire's really great about it because they usually try to have at least 3 affiliate jurors on the panel. I think you started right with John, you started with 3, and then Mark got approved in the process of getting this ready, right?
That's correct. And basically, when we had to rearrange the panel because some people couldn't make it in September, it opened up the jury pool. So we ended up having one judge from Arizona and another judge from Chicago.
Yeah.
So, and I look forward to having Tom and Bob judge our images. So.
Yeah, that's great. Bob Coates and Tom Ruffs?
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, good judgment.
And Christy Steves from Ohio.
Yeah.
Well, so we have 3 excellent, approved jurors there.
And Mark ain't he's not shabby either. Mark Sweeney.
No, Mark's our jury chair, so he's in charge of everybody.
Right. That's right. Great. Yeah. So it's 5 judges plus a jury chair. We usually have 3 monitors. Normal is 2 to 3 monitors at state level. At districts and IPC, it's usually 3 monitors, 2 judges on 2 monitors, and 1 judge on the odd monitor. And then the jury chair has their own monitor and an iPad to take care of all the scoring. The jury chair doesn't usually give a score to the image or rate the image in any way unless somebody disqualifies themselves. So that's usually when the jury chair steps in. The only other time the jury chair tends to step in and speak to an image is when he feels the jury might be missing something. You know, he's either thinking it's really, really great and they're kind of missing it, or usually it's that. They usually don't tell a jury that, that should be scored lower. Usually they try to do it in favor of the maker. An approved juror, an affiliate juror. I was talking earlier to, sorry, I forgot your name, from Concord. Jim. Jim was interested. What was that? Jim is interested in becoming an approved or affiliate juror, and what that means is you go to Judges Workshop, which is a 4-day class down in Atlanta, and do an awful lot of practice judging and learn all the rules about judging. And then you go around for several years, maybe, judging at different states and being evaluated by other affiliate jurors. You're not an affiliate juror yet. And then you have to apply and do practice critiques and get judged by the Jury Excellence Committee. And that's a big, long process, and it can be fairly involved. So it's really an amazing thing to become a judge, but it's not exactly easy. So I've been turned down twice before they finally accepted me. So that's what it means to be an approved juror, is going through that whole process, being tested a number of times, having lots of experience, and then finally getting through the application process. And even after the application is accepted, I'm still on probation for 3 years, and every time I judge, I'm going to be evaluated by the approved jurors, the other approved jurors in the jury. So it's not easy to be a judge, and it's also a bit challenging to stay a judge sometimes. So they're keeping an eye on things. They want the process to work well for the makers and to keep the bar high as far as how the images are seen and judged. Also, with state approves, with state juries, we also have that's where the judges in training get their experience, because the only approved jurors, only affiliate jurors judge districts and IPC. So you have to get your experience in the state level. And usually the non-approved jurors, I have at least their Master of Photography degree, sometimes a Master Artist degree, sometimes more. Okay, judging conditions. And you can look this up online to get the exact things, but I'm just going to give you generalities here because, like I said, you can look it up and you can get all the exact things. I've actually, when I was doing prints, I actually went out and bought like hardware store lights to get the right amount of light on my prints to see whether or not, what I'd see with them. So you don't have to spend a lot of money to kind of mimic the jury, the judging conditions, and they give you the conditions as well for your monitors too, if you're only entering digital. So one of the things is it's usually a quiet room. If there's an audience, that happens at state level. Sometimes there's a few people at IPC, but usually they're volunteers who are helping, or people in the judges class if they do the judging class at the same time. But comments and outbursts are usually discouraged. A gentle chuckle is fine if the judge makes a funny comment. Club 79 at the state level is where you can really get noisy and cheer and hoot and holler for each other. So I love being Club 79 when I'm not judging, because I really like being able to talk about the images. The judges generally talk only during a challenge or a break. The lighting is controlled and consistent, monitors are calibrated and consistent, and the judging is anonymous. If a judge knows who the maker is, he or she will disqualify themselves. That's when the jury chair steps in. If the jury chair also has to DQ himself or herself, then occasionally at the state level, they'll go into the audience and ask somebody who's a master photographer to step in and judge. I've had that happen actually. So, but it's pretty rare. Districts and IPC are both held in Atlanta. You can live stream virtually every competition from state right through IPC now. IPC and districts are live streamed on the PPA, from the PPA website, and I think it's streamtheipc.org maybe. It's really easy to find when you go to the PPA website. And printcompetition.com usually live streams all of the state competitions. Almost everybody's using printcompetition.com, which is a great system. Jeff Burton does a good job with that. Judges who the judges judge one category at a time at IPC and districts, so they'll judge all the portraits, finish them up, judge all the illustrative entries, finish those up, judge all the wedding entries, and then they'll start forming new panels as they need them to judge for loan at IPC after they finish the initial round. Images that don't merit are judged, haven't merited districts are judged first, and then they reassemble panels to judge the rest. A loan image, why is it called that? Well, because Barry's an old timer here too. It used to be all prints, right, Barry?
Yes. No
digital. And when you got a loan image, it was loaned out to different countries and was a traveling exhibit. It doesn't mean
you never got it back.
They never got it back. Loan image is not the right name because you never got those images back. But it was really great to get a loan image regardless. But yeah, you're right. You never get them back. But they still call them loan images, although we don't have the traveling exhibit anymore. So you get one merit for a merit image. You get 2 merits for a loan image for your whatever degree you're going for. And the merits are used for earning degrees, your Master of Photographer degree or your Master Artist degree, or you can use them towards your Craftsman degree too, if you've already got those. Checking your merits, you just go to ppa.com, check in, sign in, log in, and you can go to your, I believe it's my accomplishments, something like that word, and your merit report. You can generate a merit report in there. So you can always keep track. This is an example from the PPA website of what it looks like to judge digital. Again, there's 2 people on one side, there's 2 people on this side, and then the jury chair and another a person over here. So you have 3 monitors in this case. This is probably districts. And they are all judging the same image, but on 3 different monitors. They're all calibrated. They should be exactly the same. They're really good monitors. So, okay, let's go through the 12 elements. Impact. Well, impact, technical excellence, creativity, style, composition, presentation, color balance, center of interest, lighting, subject matter, technique, and storytelling. Those are the 12 elements. You're going to hear the 12 elements over and over again as far as competition goes, because that's what we base our judgment on. Those are our guidelines. So, oh, I skipped a point. Okay, let me see if I go back. No, I missed impact. Impact is the wow factor. When the image comes up, what they do is they read the title first. So the judges kind of have a door to the image, and then they look at the image about a second or 2 later. So you have a title, for instance, Delicate Beauty, and then it comes around and it's a flower. And it's just exactly what you expect. So think of that as a way to kind of explain something if your image needs explaining too. I've done that 1,000 times where I enter something and I think, they need to know this is an alien from another planet. So I put something about it being an alien in there because that tends to be what I enter. Technical excellence. This is, did you look at all the details? Did you get everything right? Did you make sure that you don't have clone tracking? It can be also the oops factor. This is where a lot of things fail or don't quite merit. It falls down at some point in the technical excellence category. So think of that. Print quality, retouching, manipulation, sharpness, exposure, printing, all of those things go into the technical excellence category, as well as mounting if you're doing a physical print, and color correction. And sorry, Claire, I'm going to mute you. I'm hearing banging in there. Creativity is, there we go. Judges are looking, during the course of IPC, the judges are judging between them 5,000 to 6,000 images. You can imagine how many kind of repetitive images they see. How many fairies do they see? How many flowers do they see? How many barns in a field do they see? They see a lot of them. So your task as a competitor is to do something that they haven't seen before or do it better than they've seen before in order to get to that lone stage. So think about how you can do something to the best of your ability creatively. How can you mesmerize the judges, make something unique or original, or give them a new take on something. Okay. Style. That is really hard to define, and even PPA's website doesn't really do a very succinct job of doing it. It's just basically everybody has a style, but all of the pieces of your image also have to be the same style. I've seen a lot of images that have 2 different styles or even 3 different styles in them, and they just have no continuity. So make sure that your style is consistent throughout, including the way you mount it or mat it, and everything that you do. It all should be consistent. So that's pretty much the gist of style is think about consistency. You all develop your personal styles whether or not you try. And, people keep telling me, oh, I know your style. And I had no clue what it was for ages and ages. I still couldn't define it. But it comes out and you can't really avoid it. But just make sure it's consistent. Composition. How things are arranged. Are you centering things and they shouldn't be centered? Are you balancing things off? I put this one in because I've got my main subject over here kind of at that golden mean or almost at that 1/3 mark. And then I've got these guys off here kind of giving it a little balance or a little bit of energy on that side. There's so many ways to attack composition, but composition is when all the visual elements of an image come together and express intent, and it's magic when that composition happens, according to PPA. So you want the viewer's eye to go where you want it to go. You want to direct it to the focal point that should be seen, and you want everything to work together as a composition, and not kind of get those jarring moments that take you out of your enjoyment of the image. Presentation. Think of this as your frame. If you brought home a photograph, an 8x10 on a piece of paper, you wouldn't put it up on your wall on a piece of tape, right? You'd put it in a frame. You'd probably mat it and frame it, put glass over it. Well, that's what presentation is. It's the finishing of your image. So this is a photograph of a print that I entered about 10 years ago. And that was done by Jonathan Penny. He didn't do any of the retouching, but he just did the matting of it. And this is a digital frame, a digital mat. So this is probably a little overblown for these days. People tend to like a little bit simpler, but there's some really beautiful presentations out there. I tend to go more towards the simple myself. And this is a presentation for an artist entry, which has to have the guide images. So presentation, what I tell people when I'm talking about presentation is you don't want it to bring you out of the image. It should just be there as a frame to the image to give it an area of calm around the image. So your pinstripe, your keystroke here, your key line should be very, very elegant, usually very small, not a blasting color. Red is usually a mistake. Trust me, it's nearly always a mistake to use red. Use the color from within the image, use it subtly, try to make it so you almost don't see it. It should be so subtle that it's just there, but not calling attention to itself. And beware of, I might not even use black on this one if I were thinking about it again now. This is from 2011, because there are blacks in this image, but if there isn't a really good solid black in the image, putting a black mat on it's going to scream tonal range deficiency. So think about that with black and white mats. Is that the best choice? Usually the best choice is to pick a color from the image and for the pinstripe and the mat.
Remember chart pack tapes, Ella?
What was that?
Remember chart pack tapes?
No, I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Back in the print day, you used to go to the art store or something, or the map maker's store, and you get chart pack tapes, physical tape of different widths, and try and match the color and put it on straight and everything.
Yeah, oh yeah, I've seen that done. I wasn't entering back then, but oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah,
and
you
spraying it with lacquer.
Yep.
That was the fun part.
And then make sure it's dry before you pack it in the print case, right?
Yes, otherwise you have a very thick set of pictures that are stuck together.
Right. I've heard stories about those. So.
And the old rule a long time ago is never use a white mat. It automatically will flunk it.
Wow. No, that's not quite a rule anymore, but it's usually got to be careful about that. So
it pretty much was at one point. It was the kiss of death. Oh, great image, but you put it on a white mat.
Yikes. Yeah, everything changes. It used to be a few years ago, double pinstripes were all the rage, and now they're not. Now it's like, that's just too much. We don't need the double pinstripe. So things change all the time. You just kind of have to listen and think, hear what the judges are saying and go, okay, well, I shouldn't be doing that anymore. Color balance. I think of this like an interior decorator. You wouldn't throw a purple pillow into a room that's full of orange and, well, you might, but orange and yellows and brown or earth tones. It just wouldn't go. So it's kind of the same thing with an image. You want to think about color harmony, how the colors go together, how they kind of enhance each other, and work within a palette of colors that is either complementary or they're associated colors, they go together. So just be aware of that. You don't want things that jar you out of the image and make you go, oh, that color shouldn't be there. Center of interest. What should I be looking at? So use your focus sometimes, use color sometimes, use brightness or darkness sometimes, whatever you can. Leading lines, that's another way to draw the eye to the center of interest, but something should be where the eye should fall, and that should be a fairly clear message that we have a center of interest here, and that's what you should be looking at. So the way PPA describes it is, this is where the image creator wants the viewer's attention focused. Sometimes there can be a primary and a secondary center of interest. Sometimes everything in an image will work together to create that center of interest. So just make sure that there's some place for the eye to go and that it really feels like that. You know, it shouldn't be vague. If you've got a scenery with a whole bunch of rolling hills, okay, it's a scene with a whole bunch of rolling hills, but what am I supposed to look at? So make sure you've got something there that brings the eye to a specific point. Lighting, is it consistent, pleasing, and appropriate? I put this one in because as a compositor, as a person who puts a bunch of images together, I have to think about the direction of lighting with each element that I put in and make sure that that all makes sense lighting-wise. So it doesn't matter whether you're shooting an image in your studio and just using one image. The lighting all has to work. You don't want a dark-haired person on a dark background and the hair just kind of bleeds into that background. Give it a separation light. You don't want a composite with something with the light coming from the right on one side of the composite and the light coming from the left on the other side of the composite, because it doesn't make sense. You would have one light source in a natural situation. So the lighting has to be consistent, and that's something I see a lot as a judge, is a composite especially made with lighting situations that just don't work together. And that includes like shadows and stuff. When you're making shadows for like my little creatures here, that has to be the same lighting situation as well. It has to be consistent with the lighting direction. Subject matter. Is the subject matter telling the right story? So this comes into the title as well. The title brings you into that. The title of this one was Metamorphosis, which is, you know, something that changes from one thing into another thing. So that automatically tells the judges, and this doesn't have the presentation on it, by the way. It's just the center of the image, but that tells the judges the start of the story, and then the image has to finish the story. So they love, you know, the subject matter is super important and also can be very engaging as well. Sometimes really, really difficult subject matter is a bit difficult for PPA judges to get behind. So I think I had one image that I put in last year that was about child abuse, and it was really not accepted that well by the judges. It scored okay, but it didn't loan. But they were just kind of didn't get it, and it just didn't work for them. So the subject matter is important to a certain extent. Technique. I told you I've been doing some critiques for the pre-competition thing, because you can go online and get critiques now for $10 each. I see this all the time. I saw one the other day. They had a landscape down the bottom that was photographic, real, and then the sky looked painted. There's two different techniques. It's automatically, that's just a no-go. That's not going to work for the judges, because they've got that jolt of, okay, I've got this beautiful landscape down here, but then I've got this painted sky. They don't go together. So make sure your techniques are consistent as well. And then the all-important storytelling, and who can resist a good story? Kimberly Smith put in an album last year and happened to win the GIA, I believe, last year, the overall Grand Imaging Award. And it was an album of a little girl growing up with a puppy and her going off to college and then the puppy getting very old. And I swear the judges were in tears and they loved it, and it won the GIA. She told a great story. So she did a great job of the images as well, but the story is what put it over the top. So storytelling is very, very important. Think about the story you're telling when you're making an image, because you are telling a story. Even a flower image tells a story. So think about what that story is and how you can enhance that story and make it work. So those are the 12 elements. They're also, all this is on the PPA website, aside from my editorial comments about it. But they do go through those in detail and remind you of all that wonderful stuff that you have to think about when you're making your images. So
where in all of this, and how do you feel about titles? We all know titles can hurt or help. I've had some where I've put in the title and they've kind of gone, huh? Because they don't get the cultural reference or anything that I'm using, or they just don't. My print, I don't know if you remember, Little Red Riding Hood.
Uh-huh.
And they all said, oh, we expected this cute little girl. And I had a girl holding an axe and a wolf's head. So.
I liked it, by the way. But again, I'm not your average photographer either, I guess. Titles they can be really important. Like I said before, they can be the door that kind of opens the judge into your world. So that's kind of the way I think about it. I had an image, I think I show it later in this slideshow, of a mother and a child that look almost human, but I wanted to make sure the judges knew that they weren't human, because there were certain aspects of them that were going to throw the judges off track if they thought they were supposed to be human. So I titled it First Day of School on the Planet Luminata. I didn't want to make any judge doubt that those were alien mother and daughter. So that let them know automatically they were not looking at a human mother or human daughter. So I feel that titles can be really, really helpful. And then the other thing, image I was just talking about, the name of that image, the title of that image was Hell is for Children, from the old Pat Benatar song about child abuse, which is definitely not saying children should go to hell. It's saying children are in hell if they're being abused. But the judges did not get that reference, like you, Barry. You know, you sometimes use something that the judges don't quite get. And that hurt it. It really did hurt it. They were offended by it. So they're not supposed to let the title bring the image down, but they're humans. So it will happen occasionally. So be careful with your titles. Be non-foreign with your titles. Do not give your image a foreign name, because there's no way Don Dixon from Texas is going to be able to pronounce je ne sais quoi with his deep South accent, you know, in a way that anybody can understand that it's French. There's no way. So just give him English. Keep it simple. Usually a shorter title's better. Make it as short as you can. First Day of School on the Planet Luminata is a really long title, but I wanted to make sure they understood that, and that would be an exception. Most of the time, you want to keep it, you know, 1 to 3 or 4 words at the most, and make it part of the story of the image. So, like I said, make it the door that opens into the story as you give them your image to look at. So, yeah, watch out for really old references that might be too obscure that they don't get. Most of the judges most of the panels have judges who are senior citizens. There are quite a few younger judges now in their late 30s, 40s, but you know, those judges that are younger, they're not going to get a Pat Benatar reference probably, because that was too old for them. They're not, if you're from a town inside of Albuquerque, you may not speak Russian. If somebody puts a Russian title on it, you know, you may not get something that's too erudite. So keep it fairly simple. I'm not saying stupid, but keep it simple, understandable, readable, because the jury chair is going to read the title before it comes around, and make it part of the story. So I think they are important. And I take some time and get some feedback on titles, usually if I can, from a friend or two. So
make sure that it's readable, I would say.
Absolutely.
I had experience with a print once, and I'm convinced that the misreading of the title hurt it. There was a couple of young deer running around in a snowfield, and I titled it Snow Day, the reference being they were out of school or whatever. The print person read it as Snowy Day, which made it just totally boring, blah.
Yeah, yeah, yep, yeah.
And you can correct it afterwards. Even if you tell people, oh, I made a mistake, it's that first impression that's done you in.
Yeah, it's gone. I mean, you've got that 5 to 10 seconds of the jury, and then the next image is around unless it's challenged. Yeah, yeah. Check your type. Check your typing. When we'll get into it in a minute, but when you're entering, you don't put the title on the specific file. You name that like 01.jpg, but then you put the title in the entry form. So the entry form, you should double check and make sure you don't have any typos in it. Okay.
Or transpositions.
What was that?
Or transpose something.
Right, yeah.
Having a picture of the flower, locomotive breath or something isn't going to work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or don't put the title in as 01.jpg, because I've seen that too a lot. People think that, they didn't fill out their entry form. They thought they were supposed to put the title as 0.1 or 0.2 or 0.3, but you are supposed to put the title in the entry form, just not on the file itself. So, okay, categories. Portraits. That includes children's portraits, high school seniors, animals where the animal is under the control of either the photographer or the owner of the animal, and then general portrait. So there's a general portrait. That's one of my dancers that I photographed. So we all know what portraits are. It's generally a face. Illustrative includes landscape, nature, illustrative, and commercial. Those landscape and nature's together, illustrative and commercial's together. Why illustrative and commercial are together, I have no idea. So, but they are. It's just the way it is. Landscape and nature is rolling hills with a barn on it would be landscape and nature. Illustrative and commercial is pretty much anything that doesn't fit into another category. So for instance, if I'm making last couple of years, I've made all aliens. So I enter 4 of them in Master Artist, and then all the overflow goes into illustrative. So that is where you kind of put everything that doesn't fit into another category.
Can the judges recategorize a picture if they don't think it's in the right category?
Normally, no, they don't. They can, but it's rare that they would. So normally they don't. And I've seen grand imaging finalists get kicked out of the grand imaging finals because they were in the wrong category. The judges felt they were miscategorized. So
I saw a big debate once where they wanted to put something in as a portrait. They kept insisting, and it was either illustrated or commercial. But it had actually been used back in the days when it was a tear sheet supplied. It was actually a cover for a novel, a book cover or something, kind of a Mickey Spillane type thing. If anybody gets that.
Yeah, so it should have gone into commercial instead, but
they insisted, no, this is a portrait.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the judges are human, so things happen. But generally speaking, they try to be as fair as possible to the maker. But those are the 2 categories in illustrative. So,
Ella?
Yeah, go ahead.
Haven't they changed the rules? So in illustrative, even if you're using a texture or a background, you have to shoot it yourself? Everything has to be?
Yep. Everything in PO. This is all photographic open. So let me go back. Portraits, illustrative, that's all. Everything in all those categories is photographic open. None of any of this can be shot by anybody but you. Every single photographic element in all of these categories has to be shot by the maker. All right?
Including the textures, right? You have to make your own textures.
Including textures, including brushes, even. If you have a brush, like a Woody Walters brush, a lot of those are made from photographs. You cannot use those in any of these categories. It will be disqualified if the judges know that. And a lot of them will know that. So, yeah.
Well, if you want to drop a full moon, say, into a mountainscape or something, you can't get a full moon from NASA and use it, right?
Nope. You got to shoot your own moon. So, yeah. Yeah, no, and this is fairly new. It's new within about the last 2 to 3 years that you cannot use anything. Actually, I think last year was the first year they really got strict on it that you cannot use anybody else's material, even textures. What was that? You're kind of breaking up. I can't hear you. You can't use anyone else's textures or even a photographic background. All of that has, so where do you put that stuff? Sorry, this is illustrative.
Moon and
That is, yeah, there's your moon right there. And actually,
Ella?
we did
Ella?
that. Yes, Yeti?
Yeah, how about the painted background? Let's say somebody Mindy painted background.
Like
that's
it
painted.
David Mayhew?
No. Well, yeah, but it's it's a manual painted background by somebody.
It's a photographic element. Anything photographic cannot be made by someone else, but you can use a painted background. That's okay.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Denny's canvas or something like that is okay still.
What was that?
A canvas, say from Denny's or something, an old Masters, that's still okay.
As long as it wasn't made from a photograph. Yeah, if it was made from a photograph, it's not okay. So just check. I know it. It's that word, photographic element. If it's a photographic element, you cannot use it in PO.
And you also mentioned you can't use brushes.
Right.
What about like Corel brushes? Those are all, you can't make those yourself.
Photographic element. Were they made from a photograph?
Oh, I see. If they were made from a photograph.
Right, because a lot of brushes can be made from a photograph.
Easily in photo, and yes, that's right. In Photoshop, yes, but not in Corel. Okay.
Right.
Yep.
Yep.
What about some of those? You can buy the plug-in. I forget the name of the thing, but it's like for fire or something like that. Now, can you use that or what? I'm sure there's
like the fire filter in Photoshop. Sure, that's not a photograph.
No, this is one it was on sale every once in a while from
brushes,
or somebody.
Yeah, if you are unclear about whether or not it's required, then email Rich Newell at PPA, because he'll be able to tell you whether or not it's okay. He's the arbitrator of all things shady, cloudy, gray areas.
Questionable.
Yeah. So, the key word is, though, if it comes from a photograph and you didn't take that photograph, you should not be entering it in photographic open unless you enter it in creative open category. There is a category for it. This is photographic open album, which is any non-event album. And it can even include weddings if they were not done, if they have images in them that were not done during the event itself. So this is from my album, Most Wanted. I just put in a sample, a couple of pages. This is the intro page. Then there's a few pages from the album. And then there's the closing page. And that had 20 pages total in it. You have to have at least 5 images, 5 spreads in the album, up to 36 maximum. So that is the rules for album. The same dimensions are required for an album spread as for a regular entry for an image. So 4,000 pixels in the longest dimension. Creative open, this is where you put your stuff. If you've got anything that, I'm muting people again. There we go. Oops, sorry. Mute. Okay. I'm creative open. If you have something that has like a photographed background, if you used a Woody Walters brush that was made from a photograph that Woody made, if you have a texture in there that you did not photograph, that's a photographic texture, a texture that was photographed, this is where you put it. You put it in creative open. It's still part of photographic open. It's not master artist. But you also have to include a guide image, just like you would for an artist entry. You just have to include a guide image, though, for the stuff that you did not photograph. So if you've got a brush that you're using, like one of my smoke brushes, then you put a little thumbnail in there with the smoke brush on it, and that's how you do it. So this is the place where they can see what you didn't make yourself, and that lets them judge it more accurately. Okay. Okay, there's the wedding category, and now that has to be, there's a new wedding degree. Wedding category itself, the wedding open, is captured during the event. So if it's like a one-day wedding, everything has to be captured during that one day. If it's a weekend wedding, you've got the whole weekend that you can go and photograph somebody's event, but it has to be captured during the event. You cannot do like the bride in your studio 2 weeks before the wedding and put that in as part of the wedding entry. That would go in photographic open, probably under portrait. So anything that's not captured during the event doesn't go under the wedding category. So that, for instance, is one of my terrible wedding images, and I don't shoot weddings, that's why it's a terrible wedding image, but that would go in the wedding category because it was done during the wedding. And the wedding album, same deal. You can put in the wedding album, it must go into photographic open if it was not done at the time of the event, but it can go in wedding album if it was done all during the event, and it can be a single maker or multi-maker effort. So you can have more than one maker for albums. The artist category, this is my home. This is all the same rules apply, all the 12 elements, but you also must demonstrate a degree of technical mastery in order to do well in artists. So there's a degree of difficulty involved in the artist category. They want to see that you know your chops in Photoshop or Painter or whatever else you're using for software to create an image, or that you're hand doing something. I mean, you can paint something by hand if you want and enter it. And guide images are required. I can't tell you how many critiques I'm doing right now that people are forgetting the guide images. So make sure you put in the guide images. And my experience tells me to tell you that put in guide images for just about everything that goes into that image. And if you're only doing like using one image, but you're transforming it a number of times, put in guide images for at least a few of those steps so they can see how it evolved. The guide images help the judges understand where you started and how much you did to it. So it's your benefit to show them, I took this escalator and turned it into a teddy bear. You know, it really helps them to understand how much work you did.
That's only Ella.
Yeah. So for instance, right down here, there's the locomotive that made up her outfit and her headdress there, and even the bubbles that are floating around her. The hand I drew, the face I made in Photoshop, but I went back and made a sketch to let them know that that face is something that I did from scratch. And there's the texture that I photographed. So those are all the elements that I used to make up this one image. And now the judges know I didn't actually, like have this presented to me, and that wasn't easy. I've made it all from these various things. So it's just giving the judges enough information to appreciate the amount of work that you're doing.
So Ella,
yeah,
on this category, you don't have to shoot yourself. You can get it from any stock images, like Adobe stock images.
You are absolutely.
Am I correct? Okay.
You are absolutely correct, Yeti. You have to have legal permission to use the images, but you can use stock images or you can use other people's work for this category. Yes. And many people do use a lot of stock images in master artists. I personally rarely, I think only one time have I ever used it, and it was a goldfish in a small part of an image. I like doing stuff myself, but you can, it's allowed. So this category, anything goes pretty much that way. Okay, let's talk about getting your file ready. Size, 4,000 pixels in the longest dimension. Save it as a JPEG at quality 10. They say they want a maximum size of 3.5 megabytes. It must be an sRGB or Adobe RGB 1998 color space, and don't forget the presentation. Put some matting on it or pinstriping with a key line. And we just talked about titles quite a bit. So make sure that you think about your title. If you're terrible at titles, and many of us are, enlist your friends. Dennis Spaziano and the Lemire's used to have parties to name their images. They used to get together and have naming parties, or titling parties. I think it's a great idea. If you have a writer friend, enlist them to help you make titles for your images. So a great title can really help an image. A bad title shouldn't hurt an image, but you've heard that it can, from both Barry and I.
And something else real quick is don't title a print in some way that is so personal to you. I saw a print once that was something like top of Everest or something. Well, it obviously wasn't Everest, but I happened to be judging that, and the whole panel just kind of looked at it and said, yeah. Afterwards, we got reamed by the maker because, well, it said top of Everest. Don't you understand how hard it was to get there and everything? No.
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't personal. It was just like it killed all the impact from it.
Yeah.
Really upset, like we'd insulted them.
Yeah, and that brings me to another point too. That was his personal experience. He had the background to know the difficulty in getting there. It's the same thing though with your children or your grandchildren. He didn't have any objectivity when it came to taking that image. You don't have any objectivity when it comes to your children and grandchildren. So be extremely careful about entering images of people you love, because your gauge of how good the image is going to be clouded a bit by how much you love the person. So just be careful of that.
It means a lot to you, but not to anybody else. And that's not to be insulting or mean or anything. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is. Okay, so what's a case? Now you can enter 3 cases. You can enter a photographic open case, PO case. You can enter an artist case, or you can enter a wedding case with a new degree. So you can enter up to 12 images, 4 images per case. You can enter, in a normal year, you can enter prints or digital, your choice. You have to make a digital representation that's perfectly accurate of any print that you enter, because that's what will be broadcast to the streaming viewers, and that's what goes on record for a number of different things. PPA uses it for a lot of reference. So you have to have a digital image of even the print that represents exactly how the print looks. So it's up to 12 images that you can enter, 4 per case. I'm not going to be entering weddings, so the most I would enter is 8. But most people, a lot of people just enter 1 case. So, and like I said, you can enter print or digital. The GIAs and the World Cup, those are chosen from the loan images. So GIAs are Grand Imaging Awards. They've been doing that for, I believe, about 10 years now. They just started those shortly after I started competing, and they choose like the top 10 in each of those categories. Each of the portrait categories, animal, children's, seniors, general portraits, illustrative, landscapes, all of those, the artist. You'll see people get a GIA for that category, and then the 10 categories, it's about 10 categories of images that get GIAs in each category, and then from those 10 winners, an overall winner is chosen, and that's the Grand Imaging Award winner for the year. It was an animal picture this last year, and the year before it was my album, the one that I just showed you. So it's pretty cool to be nominated for a GIA. I really had it as a goal to kind of win a GIA in one category. I did not ever expect to win the overall GIA, so that was kind of lucky, but it's a really cool thing to do that. So the World Cup is another kind of elite group of images that are chosen, and the makers go to various countries. I don't even know what country they go to. I've never been on the World Cup team. That's much more traditional photography, though, than what I do, generally speaking. So it tends to not be the master artist kind of stuff that the aliens just don't fit in with the World Cup. So if you're doing straight photography, you probably have more of a chance of getting into the World Cup. Lauren Del Vecchio up in Maine, she's been a World Cup nominee, or she was in the World Cup team. So, and I know a few people. Sandra Pierce has been in the World Cup a few times. the guy from Texas, Sturdivant, not him, but the other guy, I can't remember his name. Ben Shirk. He's always on the World Cup team. So, but it does tend to be a little more photographic, a little more traditional. Ben Shirk does a lot of composites, but they tend to be composites that look like something that might really happen too. So,
one of the former New Hampshire members was a World Cup as well. Michelle Trull, I believe, she was World Cup a few years ago.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah. Can you guys see the window that just opened up? Or are you still seeing the Zoom window? I mean, the keystroke.
I can see it, but I can't read it.
It's just showing up the link. It's not showing you.
Oh, Diamond, just the link.
Hang on a second. Let me unshare and share again. Desktop, share. There we go. Okay, now you can see it, right? You would in a minute if I get it out of the way. Okay, if you want to know what really appeals to the judges, these are the Diamond Photographers of the Year last year. They're in the magazine I think it's the February or March issue, or January issue, I guess. They print the Diamond Photographers of the Year, and it goes through. It takes one image from each of the Diamond photographers and puts it in the magazine, but they put them all on the website as well. So this is Eric Kaparis is constantly getting nominated because he does these amazing photographs of people with a lot of makeup on. But you can go through these and see, these do not have the presentation on them. So don't think that they went into competition like this. He did have a mat on these. They take the mat off just because it takes up so much more space and they want you to be able to see the image rather than the presentation. But this is kind of a good place to start looking at where you should be aiming. What are they looking at? See the lighting, how the beautiful lighting here on this portrait. Directional lighting, they like directional lighting. Butterfly lighting, but it is directional. It comes from the top. So there's some portraits. There's one of Judy Reinford's images, painted gorillas. So gorgeous. Another one there by her. And another one. So you can go through these and kind of get a sense of what they're looking for. Another good place is the loan book that's put out by Marathon Press. That has all the loan images in it for every given year. And so you'll be able to see what the judges like and kind of go through. And those do, I believe, have the presentation on them. Let me just check quickly. I can't grab it. I can't grab it that fast. But I do think they've got the presentation on them in the loan book. So usually it's about 4 images per page in the loan book. But see, there's my stuff in there. So, but it's really cool to be, and that's Karen McCall from Massachusetts right after me. So she's got some stuff. So Yeti, you'll be there someday, right? Okay, so this, I wanted to include, let me stop here. Oh,
a long way to go.
You get there. Let me see. I don't know if I've got sound on this. All right, hang on. Well, I'm not going to go through this if it's going to argue with me. It was working earlier, but this is, if you order critiques, this is what you'll get back as a little video. And it starts with a title like this. Even the $10 critiques right now that are available pre-IPC, we are recording these. It'll come through. The ones that you're doing right now won't have your name on them. It'll have the entry number, your title, and then the juror's name here, whoever's talking to you about your image. But the judge will go through and talk about the image and pick apart the details. When we're judging something, we're not allowed to zoom in. When they're doing these critiques, they are, so they can zoom in and show you little details that they saw on their monitors and stuff. So, yeah. Well, that's not very cooperative of it, is it? Oh, well. Okay, so where do you go with all this stuff other than just building up your chops artistically? The degrees are what you're earning with all the various merits that you're getting. And if you open up your merit degree, you'll see, like, if you take a class, you'll get a merit for it. If you attend Imaging USA, you get merits for that. If you speak, you get merits on certain, like this. I don't think New Hampshire's giving a merit for the Zoom meeting because it's not long enough. But, if I were doing a monthly meeting, I'd get a merit for it. So there are various things that you get merits for, and the 3 different kinds of merits are service merits. Those are when you get education, when you're the student, when you attend imaging, for instance, or go to an affiliate school. There's speaker merits when you're the speaker, when you're presenting information, when you're teaching in an affiliate school, or you're doing a one-day workshop or a half-day workshop. And then there are exhibition merits. So to become a master photographer, you need 13 exhibition merits, and those are earned from the 1 merit per exhibition image for a merit, 2 for a loan. You need 13 of those and 12 other images. And let me get my participants up here. Okay. 12 other merits of any kind, speaker, service, or exhibition. You can use your exhibition merits to fill in if you don't have enough speaker or service merits. So, master artist, you need 13 exhibition merits in the artist category, and then 12 other merits of any kind. So it has to be specific to the artist category. Same with the wedding, it has to be 13 exhibition merits in the wedding category. Which Munoz guy is going to get the first wedding degree? Who's taking bets here? So I'm betting it's one of them, though. And then your craftsman photographer degree is for speaking, and that is 13 speaker merits plus 12 of any other kind of merit. So that'll give you the CR in your initials. So that's M photag. If we go back, that's my degree string. So that's master photographer, master artist, craftsman. CPP is certified professional photographer, fellowship from ASP, and educational associate from ASP. And there are other business degrees. I don't know what they are because I'm a business dolt. So I'm not even going to go there, and I'm never going to get my wedding degree. So I don't want to do weddings, and you can't drag me there. I don't even like attending weddings anymore. Certified professional photographer, you have to take the CPP test, and you have to submit and have sample images accepted, and you renew it every 3 years, but you don't have to retake the test or anything. And the Photographer of the Year awards. These little dangles are on my ribbon here. Those little triangles are Photographer of the Year awards. And if you get all 4 images merit, you are a bronze Photographer of the Year. If all 4 images merit and one of them goes loan, then silver, etc. All the way up to diamond, which is 4 merit images and all 4 of them go loan in each case. So in other words, if you get 4 loan images, but it's spread out between 2 cases, that doesn't make you a diamond photographer. It has to be all 4 images in the same case have to go loan in order to become a diamond photographer. And since I enter 2 cases generally, I can get 2 Photographer of the Year awards per year if I do that well. Okay, some other things to talk about. What to consider when you choose images for competition. We talked about this a bit. PPA likes beautiful people, or they like people with a lot of character. So if you've got some woman that's like 40 and she's not all that attractive and she's a little overweight, chances are she's not going to do as well in competition as a subject than a senior in high school who's gorgeous and is the perfect weight. It's just kind of human nature to gravitate, if you are looking at a portrait, at something that's more attractive. However, if you get to somebody who's another few years older than I am, with all the wrinkles and the gray hair and lots of character lines, that works because that really becomes a character portrait then. So that's kind of where it goes, is if it's somebody that's young, they should be attractive if possible, or made to look attractive. If it's somebody that's old, then character lines are awesome. So, and the more character lines, the better usually. Just make sure the lighting's good and you don't lose stuff in the shadows. What to do during the year in preparation so you aren't in a blind panic in April and May. Well, this year it's August and September that'll be the blind panic months. But what I do is every year after imaging, after IPC, I put a new folder in my computer, on my computer, that says competition the next year. Like right now, competition 2020 would be on my desktop. After October, it would be competition 2021. And then as I go through the year and I start making images, any image that I think is worthy of consideration for competition, I'll put a copy in that folder. Then when I get to December, January, when it's the slow time, when you're not working as much, when there aren't weddings to do, when you don't have senior portraits, you go through that folder and you pick out the best images and you work on those and prepare them for competition. I'm also a firm believer in the buddy system. I'm in mourning this year, and Mark Sweeney is in mourning this year because we're both now approved jurors, which means we can't use the buddy system with each other, because we were bouncing back and forth images and getting feedback from each other, going, I'd send him a version of whatever I was working on and he'd tell me what he saw that I might improve, and I did the same for him. So we can't do that now because we're both jurors. We could end up in the jury pool judging each other's images at districts or IPC. This year it's just IPC. I'm not scheduled, and neither is he, to judge at IPC, but given the situation, we are still being cautious about that. And all of the judges judge GIA awards, regardless of whether they go to IPC or not. All of the judges in the whole pool, which is about 80 judges, they are all involved in the GIA awards and judge for that. Watch out for fatal flaws. Zoom in. Zoom in. I can't say that loudly enough, strongly enough, more enough. There's just no way I can stress that enough. Zoom into your image. Go over every single inch of that image before you submit it. Look for haloing. Look for clone tracking. Look for grunge in the shadow areas. Look for banding. Those are fatal flaws. Chances are, unless you have a really weird jury, all of those things will keep your image out of the merit category. They're kind of like what Barry was saying the white mat was a couple of decades ago. That's what those are right now. Those are like fatal flaws. So look for those things. Little haloing at the edge, chromatic aberration. Fix it before you enter, okay? And you're not going to see it unless you zoom in. So zoom in.
Especially compositing.
Especially compositing, but even not, I've seen chromatic aberration in a straight photo that wasn't even doctored, and and haloing. It just happens. Anytime you get that much of a contrast, you can get both of those things. So, and they're really not that hard to fix. Just make sure you're looking for them. Get over your fear of failure or your fear of success. I think Alison Minner has a little bit of fear of success. She doesn't want to get too well known because then the expectations are too high. A lot of people have a fear of failure. So I gave a creativity talk this noon for ASP, and one of my points was, if you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough. We all should be failing on a regular basis, because if you're sitting in the pocket where it's easy to do what you're doing, you're not doing as much as you should be doing. You're not stretching yourself. You're not working hard enough. So don't be afraid of failing. Embrace the failure, learn from it, and just go with it. Know that you're going to fail. I had an image that didn't merit. when was it? Districts last year. I haven't had an image that didn't merit in like 6 years. What the heck was that? You know, and then I'm getting a critique from Jamie Hayes who said, what happened to you, girl? Like, well, it happens to everybody, you know. It just didn't hit with the judges. What can you do? Or, you know, I didn't do something well enough. It happens to all of us. So don't worry. And, you know, I've been a diamond photographer for the last 5 years in a row. My fear of failure is probably bigger than all of yours because everybody knows me. Everybody expects me to be a diamond photographer or be way up there at least. And when my name's not on that list, and it probably won't be this year because I've absolutely been totally focused on other things this year. I barely got 2 images done at this point. They're going to be going, you know, oh, well, she's fallen off, you know, she's not doing a great job, but who cares? You know, I'm doing what I need to be doing right now, so that's okay. So don't let fear or failure stop you. Enter. You're going to learn a ton. It's going to improve you so much. It's going to build your photography to a higher level, and you're going to really be grateful for it at some point. What does it feel like to be on the judging panel, to be a judge? It's really an interesting experience. It can be scary when you're first starting. I know people sound like they're really kind of absolutely secure and, you know, bravado, and a lot of judges sound like that, but I think almost every judge is really concerned that they are fair to the maker, that they are fair to the image, and that they want to be as careful as they can to not discourage people, but still make sure that there's a fair system where if it doesn't really deserve it, it doesn't get what it doesn't get something it doesn't deserve. So I think to be on a judging panel, it's a real privilege, and at the same time, it's a real big responsibility too. So, and when you're first starting, when you're very first judging, I've been judging since 2011 now, because I got my master of photography degree and started judging statewide way back when. So I've been judging for quite a while, but it still makes my heart skip a beat just before it starts. You know, okay, whew, take the breath, we're good. And then you get into the feeling of it. You start, okay, yeah. The thing about it is, going to judges class, they teach you, be the judge that you are. Don't try to be the judge that everybody else is, because that's why there are 5 judges in a jury chair. You judge what you see, and then if you're off base, the rest of the panel is going to correct you. They're going to challenge it. They're going to bring it to where it should be. So 99% of the time, it should work really well, and it does. It works really well most of the time. Things you shouldn't hear a judge say are, oh, you know, that sky was put in, or things I've heard the judges say that are absolutely ridiculous, like, I don't like the way they lit the moon.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, that was really a classic. Or one was, I like the banding in the sky, when the image was judged, and that was the challenger trying to stick up for his challenge, when he just should have folded and said, yeah, I'm sorry, I was off base on that one. But we're trained to work together. We're trained to listen to each other. We're trained to respect the speaker and the maker and the process, and try to be as fair as possible. So, you know, it's an interesting job. It is a volunteer job. Even at IPC, you're just barely getting your expenses covered. So be kind to the judges, but know they're trying to really help you as much as they can. And they are human, so we all make mistakes. Competitive, being very careful of people's feelings is very important to everybody, I think. So I think, you know, don't slam somebody. We are also taught as judges to sandwich our comments. Start with something positive, then give the maker 1 or 2 or 3 things that they might work on, and then end with something positive. I do that with my UMass students all the time, and I have them critique each other's work, each other's projects, under the same adviso. If they don't start with something positive in their critique, I almost never read their critiques. I don't care what they say about the image. That's their opinion. But if they don't start with a positive and end with a positive and give the maker something to work on in between that, they don't get full credit for that assignment. Well, as judges, that's our job too, is to not leave the person feeling so absolutely bereft that they don't want to enter again. So, you know, that's part of the job of the judge. So let me see. I think that is about it, guys. Questions? You're all just absolutely.
I have a quick question.
Go.
During the states, if they use printcompetition.com, how quickly after the judging do the scores end up on the site?
Usually right away. You can watch the judging live and get right away. The top 16 will be in the leaders board all day, no matter what. And then usually within 48 hours, you'll also hear any challenges. They record the challenges, and those will be available to you within 2 days usually. So, but yeah, the scoring should be available to you right away. And printcompetition.com, if you sign up for the texting, they'll text you what you scored as well. So, okay. Yeah, they're really good about it. And they actually have been more consistent than PPA has been about sending you texts. So, and they've been doing it for quite a while, several years at least. So, yeah.
I can add something to that as well.
You absolutely.
Printcompetition.com, if you take a look and you go into your homepage, you can look and see there's a little link over on the left-hand side that you can view your images, and almost immediately after the images are scored, your scores go into that section of printcompetition.com. So you can even see the breakdown of what the 5 scores were, as well as what typical we'll see over there.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can search print if you have one of the membership is like, what is it, $10 a quarter or something like that, John?
Yeah, about that.
If you have that membership, you can go in and search anybody's entry from as long as printcompetition.com's been in operation. So you can go back and search previous years for who entered what by their name and stuff. So you can go search what I entered in New Hampshire 3 years ago if you want to, or what you entered 3 years ago to check on it. So it's a really nice service. I think it's really cool that they've done that. I'm going to stop sharing now so we can all see each other. Hey.
Ella, thank you very much. Thank you so much, Ella. It was really interesting.
Good.
And happy to see you all.
Yeah, great to see all you guys here. No, any other questions? All right. Well, thank you everybody for coming tonight. You can reach me through the NHPPA website or the PPAM website if you need to email me. You can also email John if you have questions about the NHPPA print competition. He's the print chair, the image competition chair, because it's not prints, right, John? It's just
correct,
just digital, which will be taking place.
September 12th is the date of the competition. We're going to start at 9 a.m. And our image entry deadline is August 31st, 11 p.m. 11:01. You're too late.
Yep. And remember, PPA is offering critiques by the approved jurors right now for $10 each, and you, as PPA members, should have a $30 education credit that you can use for 3 of those at least. And those are by qualified jurors that are going to be judging the competition. So you should get some pretty good feedback. And anybody that's a master photographer is probably a good person to kind of ask for a little bit of feedback. I really strongly suggest getting somebody that you can bounce your images off of just to get another person's opinion. Like I said, Mark and I did that for the last couple of years, and both of us, I think, benefited from it greatly. I do it still with Allison Miniter. I used to do it with Nylora, but she's kind of moved on to another field right now. But I think that's a really helpful thing to do to get an outside person's opinion, an objective opinion about your images. So I would strongly recommend that. Don't do it with an affiliate juror because then they can't judge your images, but pick somebody that's really good but not yet a juror. And there's a lot of them out there. So thank you, everybody. Have a great night. Good luck with your images. I hope to see all of you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ella.
Good night, guys.
Thanks, Ella. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Oh, my brain is full. Guess I'll go home.
Good. Good to see you, Barry.
I'm going home? Okay, thanks.
Bye.